Okay, welcome back to the property and policy episodes of the Wilton Report. So, if you live in Princeton, I think you've probably noticed it. There is conversations around housing redevelopment, traffic growth, impact on the schools, but the reality is most people never really see how these decisions happen. So tonight we're going to be sitting down with someone who will be directly involved in those conversations. So again, welcome back to the Wilton Report Policy and Property Edition. My name is Josh Wilton, and I co-own and run the number one boutique real estate company here in Central New Jersey in Princeton. And we work with buyers and sellers every day in this market. And I do see firsthand how things like zoning, development, infrastructure directly impact pricing, demand, and long-term value. So tonight we're going to be looking for Marina Rubina. She's going to be coming on live in a second. And the last time Marina and I talked, we explored one of the biggest questions facing Princeton right now. Why is housing so expensive? So we are going to bring Marina Rubina on. And Marina, you've been a busy bee.
Hello, good evening.
You have been in the news. Well, you're always kind of in the news, right? Even if you don't want to be in the news. But so now you're in the news because why don't you share your new news with everybody? Though I think in Princeton, you'd be sleeping under a rock if you didn't know what's been happening with the town council.
Yes. So at this point, was it a week ago or maybe even a couple of weeks ago? We had our
hours ago
primary election, and we had an incredible slate of candidates. It's not often that we have competitive elections, but we did this time around, and we had an amazing group of candidates. 4 people running for 2 seats on town council, and I am deeply honored to have been selected to move to the next step in the election. So having won the primary and now moving on to the general election in November, and fingers crossed to serve on town council starting next year.
Okay. So you were the top vote getter too, I would like to add, right?
Yeah. Wow. I know.
Well,
I'm
not that I'm like to add, it's just more factual. You were the top vote getter in the primary. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. That's awesome. So what's on the forecast for the fall when the actual election happens, not the primary? It'll be yourself. I know David Cohen won, and there is finally a Republican running in Princeton, right? So there'll be 3 people for 2 spots. Is that the case?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Got it. And I say this agnostically, but historically in Princeton, if you're a Democrat, you're kind of a shoe-in, right?
Well,
historically.
That was not the case, actually. Many years ago, Princeton was 100% Republican town. But as of the last, I'd say, 20 years, maybe even more than that, it has been consistently Democrats are 100% of town council. However, I must say that I'm really grateful that we do have a Republican candidate running, because what that allows us to do is it allows us to continue the conversation about issues and how do we see things and how do we kind of work through conversations and develop ideas and get everybody's involvement. Because if it's not a contested primary, people just kind of like, oh, well, tune it in or kind of tune it out.
Exactly.
Right. So it is
something
wonderful.
Happens on their street and they get angry. So
yeah, right. So I think it's wonderful to have a contest where we could continue discussing issues and through conversation discover what's important to people in town.
So let's take a step back before we kind of jump into the topics of the day. So how did you end up in Princeton? Let's start there.
So I moved in Princeton. It's going to be 20 years this September, and I can't believe it's already going to be 20 years. So I, prior to this, lived in San Francisco and moved here because of my husband's job. And we didn't expect to leave California, but here we are in Princeton, New Jersey.
20 years later, right?
right, almost 20 years later. And at this point, I have worked on many, many projects here in town.
So
Prior
just
to
for the record, Marina's an architect, an amazing architect, I might add, as an aficionado of architects.
Yeah,
So
so when we first moved to Princeton, I worked for a year for a firm here in Princeton, and then I commuted to Philadelphia for a couple of years and worked for a larger firm. And then after 3 years on the East Coast, started my own firm, and here I am.
here we are. So you've worked on, we won't even go into the number of projects you've worked on in Princeton, but let's pivot towards politics. Like here you are, you're the one of the designated elected, soon to be elected official in Princeton for town council. Why on earth, with a burgeoning real estate architecture practice, right, amongst other businesses, why on earth? And please expand on what you're going to have to give up when you win, right? Why on earth would you want to get into politics in Princeton? What's the motivation here?
Well, it wasn't an easy decision for me because in our town, and I think this is very logical, that if I would be representing our town on town council, then I would not be able to continue doing work on projects in Princeton, and that makes sense from a conflict of interest standpoint. So, if I were to submit documents for review, our town officials would be kind of like, well, how do we review these documents and have negative feedback for somebody who's, could possibly be voting on my salary? So it kind of creates an uncomfortable situation. So
just to be clear, you're giving up your ability to practice architecture in Princeton.
Correct. Right.
Which
So
you have a very successful practice. You're giving that up. What's the pay of a member of town council?
So if I understand correctly, the pay for being on town council is $10,000 a year,
Ooh, okay.
which will not compensate me for
You're giving up your bread and butter, your architecture practice here in town.
for giving up my professional practice in town. So what that means is I am going to be shifting a lot of my professional work outside of Princeton.
Right.
So because I'm not in a position to not work. I have 2 kids going to college soon, so that requires me to continue working, but also I enjoy working. I love my job. So.
And I know you do. And I share this because I've interviewed multiple mayors locally, different council people, and I always agree or disagree on the issues, right? Like when I was interviewing Mayor Marathi in West Windsor, he makes $17,000 a year and he's working 45 to 50 hours a week. Mayor Frida, everybody we've talked to, town council people, like town council is no slouch of time investment either, which we'll talk about. So I just want everyone to realize, like, running for town council, giving up your practice, this is a big deal personally and professionally. So last time we spoke, we talked a lot about affordability. We talked about the missing middle, right? Because you've maintained an awesome podcast of your own. And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff tonight, but let's talk about real estate because that's the topic of the show. And obviously it's your background. So there's an affordability crisis in Princeton, which we talked about last time. The average single family home price is 1.7 million in Princeton. The average townhouse is in and around $1 million, right? The average condo, and I'm not talking a studio on Palmer Square, the average 2-bedroom, 2-bath condominium is anywhere from $650 to $850. That's 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, right? So it's not like it's sustaining a family of 5. How can you and the town council address the missing middle issue in Princeton?
Well, I'm optimistic that we're going to try.
I know you will.
And I am also very much interested in starting early and starting soon. And I think what's really beneficial, because I am in this field, I have been working on these issues for, close to 20 years on the East Coast. And coming to council with that understanding should help. So I am really hoping to hit the ground running come January. But I also would love to invite everybody in town and outside of town. If you have any ideas, suggestions, advice, please don't hesitate to reach out. So, what I have been doing towards that is for the last, at this point, year and a half, I've been, in addition to my practice, hosting a podcast called Who Killed the Starter Home, trying to get to the exact bottom of what can we do? Who is it that killed the starter home? And my personal passion is very much related to what you talked about, is home ownership, that through various legislative initiatives for many years, and we can get into how our affordable housing mandates came about and how they're implemented. A lot of the focus has been on creating rental units. And there's no doubt that we had a shortage of rental units. That is definitely a need that's being satisfied. However, what happened is the for sale units were left behind. And for many, many years, we had very few smaller residential units built for sale. And I can explain a lot of the reasons behind why that is happening. And these reasons come into sort of three categories. One, it's a federal problem, one, it's a state problem, and one, it's a local problem.
So let's talk about it one at a time. Let's talk about the feds, because everybody likes to yell at the feds. So how are they impacting it?
Yeah, so the problem of the federal government, what is going on is that the tax incentives are very much stacked up to encourage rental development. So, for example, Josh, let's say you decided tomorrow you're going to be a developer and you're going to build a 5-unit residential building, and then you decided to rent that building. Every year, you would be writing off depreciation. Your building is no longer new. So every year that building will be older, 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 older. So that building would be losing its value. So you could effectively say, okay, my tenants are paying me rent, but I'm reducing that rent by that depreciation, and therefore I'm paying less in my taxes.
Okay.
Right.
So,
however, if you, Josh, decided first year you just built this unit, this 5-unit, and you're like, yay, I want to sell condos. I'm going to sell condos. Hooray. You put them on the market and you sold them because they're desirable and they're beautiful and everybody wants them. You're going to pay a humongous tax right away. Right. So if you're a developer and, you have kids in college too, you're like, well, why am I going to sell it? I'm going to hold on to it, right? And I'm going to use this income that I'm collecting to pay off for my kids' college education, right? So it makes every incentive from the tax standpoint to hold on and rent rather than to sell it as condos. Okay. So even though it's not a direct impact, but it's a calculation.
Yeah, look, I own investment properties. I get it. And people love to hate landlords, and that's fine. But you know what? A new roof's expensive, and new windows are expensive, and a new boiler is expensive. So,
it's not true, right?
Yeah, right. So let's talk about the state. Let's the second favorite pastime of people in New Jersey. Let's talk about why the state's screwing it up.
Yeah. So there are two issues with the state. So first of all, through our state-mandated affordable housing regulations for many years, and I'm sure you'll ask more about our Mount Laurel obligation, every municipality, until literally this year, if one were to create a affordable unit to meet the state requirement, if you were to create one unit and rent it, you would get 2 credits. But if you were to create one unit and sell it, you would get 1 credit. So everybody's like, oh my goodness, why would I want to get half the credit? So all of the
Almost
projects,
like the big builders are in collusion to build rentals, and I
well,
don't, I don't
it's
want to use
not
that
that
word in that
we
trouble.
were short on rental. I mean, we were short on rentals, so it's true. The idea was, this is desperately needed, and therefore that was incentivized, right? So we were incentivizing this. Just this last round 4 of our state regulations eliminated that double credit, and now we're going to see more units coming to market. So that's one part of the state issue. The other part is New
Let's,
Jersey.
let's just clarify that they eliminated the double credit. What does that mean?
Yes. So now if somebody is like that, going back, so Josh Wilton decided to build a 5-unit building, he needs to give 1 unit to the affordable housing compliance. And that unit, whether you sold it or you rented it, there is no difference. There's no double credit, there's no double counting. The same whether it's rental or for saying. So that incentive towards rentals has been removed. So that will hopefully have a positive impact. The other impact that we have on the state level is we have very, very, very strong condo protection laws. So we have, for years, it was assumed that builders and, I don't know, developers, I guess, would somehow be doing really mean things, cutting corners, doing, I don't know what they would be doing, something
Never.
bad.
Builders would never.
And they would be hurting future condo owners. So there are very, very strict requirements that you, as the developer who just built this condo unit, you have to keep money for 10 years locked in, essentially associated with that building, in case something is going to go wrong. So as a developer, if you were to sell these units, not only are you going to get hit by taxes, you cannot pull your profit out of this project and move it to something else. You're basically stuck holding on to this potential liability. So again, if you're, let's say, Toll Brothers or some kind of really large company, that's less of an issue because your operation is so huge that you have a way to maneuver this. But if you're a small local person who does this, like 10-unit building, then it's really a problem because
I'll be honest,
you can't do it.
Can't do it. It's not even feasible.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
With smaller developers.
Right.
They can't leave the profit in the project for 10 years.
Right. Right. They just don't have the cash to be locked in, because at that point, well, why am I not just renting it? Right.
Take advantage of the tax laws.
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about the town.
Right. So at the local level, and this actually, I think we do have the flexibility to do something and fix this, is in our local town, we have kind of our rules. The way I like to explain it is, where's the line between scary and not scary? So if you are doing 3 resident, what?
It can be a pretty thin line.
Right. So if you have a building with 3 residential units, the review processes are very close to the same as if you're doing 30 units or 300 units. So, for example, today I went and visited a existing 3-unit condo that is downtown Princeton, really walking distance to everything, and 3 individual owners. And it's a lovely couple who, this is their condo that they purchased because they would like to retire here and they are planning to live here. This is their kind of age in place home, except it happens to be on the 2nd floor of this beautiful Victorian. So they're sitting there like, well, I need to put in an elevator because how, like in a few years, it's going to be really difficult for me to carry groceries upstairs. Because it's a 3-unit building, for them to put in an elevator, the whole process is not an easy process. Even
So
if they're
they literally get lumped in with a project the size of the Avalon.
right, right.
Mom and pa, condo person, Avalon. And again, it's just not an equitable conversation because the Avalon has a lot of money. They're a REIT and they know how to take money and make money. And mom and pa just want an elevator.
Right. So in this case, they would like an elevator. So now they need to hire professionals. They need to appear in front of the board. They need to hire an attorney. And of course, they're complying with all the rules. It'll probably take them a year to get through the approvals. I have no doubt that they're going to get their elevator approved. But the point is, are we sure that this is the correct process to be putting them through? And if it is, maybe we do think that this is the right process, but I don't think we realize, I don't think we've had that conversation. And I think partially why it's good that, first of all, we're talking about it today, but also why could we be discussing this during a campaign, right? Having somebody who has dealt with this issue on everyday basis come and try to bring the attention of the general public and explain, this is the situation on the ground. How do we feel about it? And if we as a town had a conversation and decided, yeah, we feel this is the right way to go, well, good, then we have a conversation about it. But I think what I would like to explore is maybe we're able to move that kind of border between scary and not scary to some other location, right? Maybe this aging couple putting in an elevator does not need to go and appear in front of the planning board, right?
Or the year of the time they have left in front of the planning board. Architect fees. Do they need to hire an architect for it?
They need to hire an architect. In all likelihood, they will need to hire a planner to testify.
Lawyer?
I think they will need to have an attorney because this is a condo building, right?
So I literally read an article today, and I read the title of the article, that government adds $160,000 per house in expense.
Yeah, I have definitely heard the same issue. So, well, what is also really interesting is, and this we don't talk about, and I would like to start having a conversation about it. So, for example, this couple, they decided that they need to apply for this elevator, right? So they hired 3 professionals to represent them. They submit the documents to the town. The town also has professionals reviewing those documents, and the applicants are paying for the time for the town's professional to review their documents. And in this case, hopefully it's not too bad, but those professionals, who are usually consultants working on behalf of the town, are working hourly. They're effectively, and maybe they're nice people and they maybe won't do it, but they're effectively incentivized to make this process go as long as possible, right? Because for them, it makes financial sense to continue reviewing this project. So, for example, we had a situation, it was 4 units, it wasn't 3 units, for one of the projects that I was working on. And the time that it took to review a landscape of this project. So we had to submit a separate landscape plan where we would present, what type of plants there would be. These plants would die faster than it took to review this project. I apologize for being so blunt here, but I feel that sometimes.
How long did it take to get the landscaping reviewed?
Probably about a year. I'm not sure that some of these plants would survive that. I mean, I hope they would, and I'm sure everybody's going to try. But the town hires a consultant to review this landscape plan, right? And one could institute, for example, a different system. One could say, here's a list of approved plans. If you use this list of approved plans, no need to be appearing in front of a landscape subcommittee, right? That, especially for smaller projects. Of course, we understand that if this is Avalon Bay and they're doing 300 units,
Understood. But that's
no
not what we're talking
question.
about.
It's not what
So,
we're talking
hang on.
about.
Let me pop a slide on the stage with us. Okay. My favorite bugaboo. 114, 118 Birch, right? Did you see this when it was on the market?
Yes, I did.
You went inside?
Yes, I did.
Okay. This is in the John Witherspoon Historic District, right?
Witherspoon, John. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's in that purview.
Mm-hmm. Witherspoon Jackson Historic District.
Witherspoon
Correct.
Jackson,
Yes.
sorry, Historic District. Sorry, I will always get it wrong because
No worries.
I'm not in favor of it. But whatever. This house was, my understanding, was an illegal 3-family, which is fine. Don't really care.
It was a what?
Illegal 3-family. Like, it wasn't zoned to be a 3-family, but it was, which is fine. I don't really care. Mold, everything, literally, it's not salvageable. The people that are in favor of this historic designation say that this house, which was not built well when it was built, is historic, which it's not. My issue is that A, it's not historic, but B, more importantly, considering we're in a housing crunch, and the longer a time it takes to develop a house, the more expensive it is for the end user, the consumer, right? This is on a double lot, and this is a lot where you could put 2 houses and 2 ADUs. In your professional experience, how long will it take for a developer to get that? Because that is the highest and best use for that lot. How long will it take to completely redo this house, right? And build another single family and 2 ADUs realistically in that neighborhood?
Well, to get approvals,
Yeah. Not to build,
Practically-
approval. Yeah.
practically impossible. I don't think that if a developer purchased that property and came to a board and tried to get it passed, I don't think they will get it passed.
So we're in the middle of an affordability crisis in Princeton. This is an
Mhm.
already dense neighborhood. It's not a historic house. It literally had mold, leaking root water, running water, like everything wrong with it.
Well, it also had lead. Yeah. Mhm.
Lead, has everything wrong with it. So someone wants to spend money, fix it up.
Right.
They're not allowed. And it's going to take, if they get it approved, 100 times as long.
Well, if they were lucky, which I don't think it would have been approved, if they tried, it would have probably taken at least 2 years.
2 years
At
for
best.
approval. And then let's just say another year to develop the parcel out.
Right.
So 3 years to build housing on a double lot.
Right.
That
But
in
I
any
think
other neighborhood. So if this wasn't in the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood and it was in another neighborhood, how long would it take for approval?
okay, well, I take it back. Probably in this neighborhood, it would have taken 3 years for approval because I apologize. I forgot to allow an extra additional year for historic preservation. You're absolutely right. This is a very difficult issue. Lot subdivisions.
Not that difficult, but
Well, lot subdivisions are a very difficult issue. So, for example, right now in Massachusetts, there is a pending ballot measure. So, somebody in Massachusetts got frustrated with literally this exact issue where the municipalities are creating very large lot minimum requirements. Right? This is why this problem is occurring. And this problem is not something that just happened yesterday. So our zoning code dates back to 1968 in the Princeton Township and 1974 in the Princeton Borough. Do you remember what happened? What else happened in 1968? This is a test. In 1968, Fair Housing Act was passed, which allowed well, actually, which prevented discrimination based on race and everything else. So
Federal
it
guidelines.
no longer allowed people to have a deed restriction that would say, we're not going to sell to certain people. So at that point, it is possible that since deed restrictions were no longer legal, municipalities had to resort to other discriminatory practices in order to prevent a variety of people, in all likelihood, people of lower end of the income spectrum, to move into town. So the way that they did it, which was perfectly legal, is make really large lot size requirements. So in Witherspoon Jackson, as we know, all the lots are very small, and 95% of them are non-conforming to current zoning regulations that were specifically created to make them non-conforming for that exact reason, right? So this is not an accident. This was specifically created so that anytime anybody would want to do anything, they would have to appear in front of the board, and the process would be really long.
So you're saying that in the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood, right? They're non-conforming lots on purpose,
Mhm.
and it's historically a neighborhood of people of color, right? It just is what it is. And so you're saying that the town
Well,
fathers,
immigrants, smaller homes,
smaller homes, yeah, just like, yeah. So
more
the town
affordable.
fathers at the time said, let's make it really difficult for those people to do anything with their homes.
Well, or let's make it difficult to make more of this,
Okay.
right? But the point is that that knowledge has been kind of lost, right? We now, and I feel that the desire to preserve that neighborhood is very much coming from how much we love it, right? How much we enjoy it, how much we think what a great historical place it is, how wonderful it is that we could live close together, how it is something to preserve, right?
Well,
That
the lot
is,
sizes aren't getting any bigger, but there's nothing historic about this house. George Washington lived there.
well, I think
Nobody
that,
famous fought a battle there.
so when they you kind of need to think about it in multiple ways, that in order for something to be designated historic, it has to be, on one hand, what you're describing. Okay, well, this is a house where George Washington stayed overnight, right? Or that's one basis. Another basis could be it was designed by famous architects, so and so. And a third reason, which is what was used to create the Witherspoon Jackson Historic District, is as a group of homes, as a neighborhood together, it has a certain historic meaning, and it has a certain quality that as a group together, they represent something historic and important, right? And that was the basis for the creation of that district, which is indeed true. And I think what was discussed at that point, and which is actually finally happening on council, hopefully as we speak, is it would be totally fine if we decided that this is what we respect and this is what's important as a group, as a streetscape, as a sense of scale. That's what we're trying to preserve. And therefore, we're going to make very clear rules and guidelines that, if you were to do something to this existing building, here are some steps. And if you follow these steps, that should be easy.
I
Because
wonder, I
when
don't mean to interrupt, but I'm wondering how much Princeton spends on these consultants for all these projects. Is there any way to get that line item number?
I think there is. I am not sure yet, but I think we should find out. But I think that actually would be money well spent, in my opinion, if at the end of this process, hopefully not too long from now, we will have a very clear set of rules, right? Where somebody could log into our website and say, like those people who are trying to put in an elevator, same thing, or the people who are trying to do the landscape plan. When the rules are very clear, right? It makes everybody's life very easy. I log into the website and I say, oh, Here's a diagram. If I would like to do something with this house, here are the guidelines. If I follow the guidelines, it should be a super duper easy process, right? It also makes life easier for the municipal staff, because then municipal staff could say, oh, I don't need to make any subjective decisions. It's very clear, if your house has these types of columns, you maintain these types of columns. If something didn't survive, this is the replacement, right? The more clear the rules are, the easier it is for everybody to make decisions, more consistent.
Saves money,
Saves
saves time,
money.
turn around housing faster. God, it's almost like it's so, I don't know, logical, right? It's like the antithesis of what everybody thinks about government. That's, everyone thinks government sort of is on a level inefficient. And like we've talked about major inefficiencies already tonight. So let's pivot to everybody's favorite topic, right? Marina, you don't understand. If we build more housing, there's going to be more traffic, and the schools are going to be overcrowded, and the average SAT score is going to go down, and then cats and dogs are going to be living together, and it's going to be anarchy, right? It's like, again, it's that thin line of thinking. And I understand it. Like, I talked to a lot of people about real estate, and a friend of mine just texted me the other day. He goes, can we have lunch, or can I buy you a beer? And he wants to talk about the project that's going to happen at ETS, because he lives in Princeton, but he lives out that way, and he's concerned. So I said, look, it's happening, but I'm happy to talk to you about it from what I understand. But so let's talk about Princeton. I have said on this podcast and multiple times, despite, and I'm not saying it's not something to aspire to, Princeton is not a bike town. It's just a car town. And I basically forbid my kids to ride their bikes because I don't think it's safe. The train station, instead of moving it closer to town, we moved it further away, which is illogical. So it's not like we're a mass transit hub in town, right? We're not bike friendly. It's a car driven community. It just is what it is. Is Princeton built for future growth without traffic? Like what, obviously the seminary is going to happen. They just approved 85 condos on Thanet Circle, which is great, because I think because people can get a peg on the equity ladder, right? But, Marina, it's just going to be more traffic. Princeton's changing, and I hate that. But what's Princeton's plan to deal with the offshoots of more housing, which is traffic and schools and all the other stuff? Or does it need a new plan?
I think that it's very clear that we are seeing more traffic, right? I don't think that denying that is going to help anybody, right?
No.
And I think that we might as well start dealing with it, right? One way is like, well, no, it's not true. There's no more traffic. And from my evidence that it's, very much just me walking around and I do mostly walking and biking around town. I don't usually drive. So I do see way more traffic downtown. I have on multiple occasions seen the parking garage downtown be full, which I have not seen before. I have also come to the shopping center and have seen a full parking lot. I mean, it wasn't full, but it was like, wow.
But you can't get a parking spot.
Right. You have to go drive to the back of the shopping center to get a parking space. And I think that's actually wonderful.
Because as an aside,
yeah.
right? I interviewed a small business owner that I've known a long time. And they were in the shopping center before, and it was like sleepy at best.
Mm-hmm.
Since the apartments have gone in north and south, their business has gone up like 20 to 30%.
Right. And the shopping
it won't
center,
be just her, it's significant. And then she said, look, that's allowed me to hire more people.
Yeah.
And then
so
it brought in more businesses,
Right. But I think that this is a wonderful opportunity to say, we are succeeding. It is working. So what can we do to start planning ahead and start making sure that the infrastructure that we're setting up moving forward works for us? So I would say, I have.
we
I
have
have
the town park.
ideas. Okay,
All
I
right,
have
let's do
ideas.
it. Because,
So
and again, I'm not, obviously I'm, in favor of development, smart development. Uh, you know, I agree with you that there was a rental need. I think we're moving towards a glut for rentals, and prices are going to come down, and you're going to see some landlords punt their rental properties in the next few years. But um, the little green bus isn't going to do it. The dinky's not going to do it because you can't walk to it. It's too far. Like, what's the plan, or what should be the plan?
well, I have some dreams. So I'm gonna try sharing my dreams. So dream number one
Put on your
is
seatbelt.
yeah, put on your seatbelts. So dream number one, we have trucks that are cutting through town that should not be cutting through town.
Yeah.
That is absolutely very clear. There are trucks going on 206 that are not coming to Princeton. They're cutting through. And it does two things. First of all, they're really big, they're really loud, they're causing traffic, they're causing a big commotion, but they're also destroying our roads, right? Like not then we get potholes and then we have to, live with them, and we have people who get their wheels stuck in a pothole and get hurt on bicycles. So
Literally,
first,
the guy was
literally,
killed like 4 weeks ago.
yeah,
He had a
this
pothole.
is this is a real problem. So what I would love to see, first of all, is us working on getting those trucks removed from our streets. And there
How
are
do you do that?
ways.
You ticket them to death? Like, what's the plan?
Well, one is you start enforcing the speed limit. The other one is there is something called variable speed control, where when it gets trafficy downtown, further out of town, you can put a variable a speed limit that would say right now the speed limit is reduced to 25, so that you slow them down as they're coming into town so that they're not rumbling through and then stopping really hard. So that if you can imagine, if the water would flow more evenly, it wouldn't kind of create blockages, right? So if you can start working with the state and institute something like that as a test project. But what's also really interesting is if the speed limit drops, why are these trucks here? It's possible that they're avoiding tolls on the turnpike, but it's also possible that they're not even thinking about it. They put it into GPS. I need to go from here to there. And I tested this theory, and we're literally like 1 minute away. Our shortcut is 1 minute shorter than going on the turnpike. So if we reduce our speed limit, the automatic wayfinding.
But 206 is a county road, right?
Right, but if we could work, well, I think it's actually a state road, or is it a
State
county?
road.
So, but we could or work with them and say, look, it's causing a problem in our town. It is causing traffic blockage. Why don't we test out this variable speed limit and see if when there's a big traffic, all of those, Google Maps is not going to send them here. They're going to they'll say it's faster to stay on the turnpike, and then maybe it will work. So possible, get rid of traffic that doesn't come here. Right? They're not supposed to be here. They're just here
That's not an
accidentally.
overwhelming percentage of it, right? Like,
Okay, now we're getting to the second
the
part.
university, and this is great because they're the largest employer in the area. They subsidize housing. They keep housing prices high, good or bad. Good if you're already on the equity ladder, bad if you're not. They bring in tens of thousands of people per day because there's no mass transit in town.
Right. So the second is, how do we make it super easy for people who are coming here for work to park? They drove here and they parked, and then now they're walking and moving around town with us. I think it's not out of the question to make super convenient public transportation in town.
Who's paying for it?
Well, we had multiple proposals from New Jersey Transit to replace the dinky. And actually, I'm going to give a plug. I have a child who's working on a proposal to replace dinky with a tram. He's going to come and present it. He is very passionate about it. But what we actually recently did is, it was my birthday last weekend. And thank you. We went on the dinky ride because Dinky and I together turned 99. So we had a birthday, myself and Dinky the train. And so Dinky the train is not doing so, oh my God, amazing. So it will need to be replaced soon. I believe that there is definitely an opportunity to work with New Jersey Transit to create something really incredible, a form of train that will get people to town. So we
I might
also,
know somebody from New Jersey Transit who lives in Princeton.
I think I know who that is, right? Maybe when he's done with the World Cup, he will concentrate on our tram. But the other people who we have coming to our town are, so they're people who are coming here for work. We know that they're going to the university, most of them. They could either come on the train or they could park in the university garage. We also have an amazing amount of people who are coming to support our local businesses, because we need to sort of remember that although we're our local town where we all live, but we're also a regional hub, right? We're a local regional hub for innovation. We, with AI hub that's the state of New Jersey and the Princeton University are doing together, we have an incredible number of private schools that people drive their kids to, right?
Right.
We
They moved
also,
here from
right,
all across the United States.
right.
But yeah, they
We
do drive.
all Right. And we also have unbelievable resources. We have McCarter Theater with cultural institutions. We have a new art museum. So as a town, I am hoping, and I feel that that's where we're moving to, is try to think of those scenarios. If I'm a person coming here for the weekend to enjoy the art museum, go to a McCarter show, go walk around, buy something, what does that scenario look like? How do I make it so wonderful and so appealing to use, either come park once, done, and then walk around? And I think there's a lot of conversations in Experience Princeton, our special improvement district, of how we link our commercial zones in a way that they're logical and people don't need to drive from one to another. Sort of once you have arrived, you're parked and you're done, and now you're walking. And then the third, and probably the most important one, is how do we make it safe for all of us in town and those people who have arrived and parked to get around locally? And this, I think, is going to be the most creative one. How do we bike around? How do we walk around? How we make it so
Honestly,
easy?
I think you're crazy to bike in Princeton. I really wouldn't do it. Wouldn't
Well,
do it. They're colonial roads. They were not built for cars, and they're definitely not built for cars and bikes. And the ironic part is, on North Harrison Street, they built 2 bike lanes. The only thing I've seen in the bike lanes are cars who get confused. It happened today. Drive in the bike lane to make. I've never seen anybody on a bike in the bike lanes ever. And as you know, I'm all over town every day. So it's just, there's got to be a way to do it where people are not going to bike. This is not Holland or Denmark, right?
I think we will. I do think that I must say that maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I do think that, and especially however people could be upset about it, electric bicycles are really going to make a big difference. Because if somebody had to go up the hill, that wasn't going to happen.
Wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Go to work sweaty in a suit. It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. However, with a pedal assist bicycle, I think we have an unbelievable opportunity to use roads more efficiently. But right now, we're very much in a transitional point in our understanding of this. I think this is a real developing new transportation way that could really be very exciting. So right now we tend to say, like, we lump bicycles with cars and we don't know what to do with electrical bicycles at all. And I think it will take a few years, but we're really reinventing this new method of getting around. And I think that's, to me, it's the future.
Okay.
I
Okay.
guess I'm an optimist.
You are well, you are the most undying optimist I've ever met in my life, which is
that
look,
is that is the
you had,
case.
you had
Yep.
an idea to run for town council, and here you are, right? You're on your way. So let's talk about, like, obviously there's a need to make, I'll say, housing more efficient and the development of housing more efficient. I'm not even going to talk about the historic districts anymore because it just gets my blood pressure up. Let's 10 years from now, right? Let's fast forward this out. You look back on your time on town council, and it doesn't have to be 10 years, but however long it is, right? Maybe you're a lifer.
I don't think so.
I know you're not. Looking back over when you're done with your term on the council, right? And you're walking away, your 3 greatest accomplishments were what?
I think that what I would love to see is, and I guess this is sort of when I look back at things that I was able to do, right? I could be most proud of, look, I designed this building right here, and it's a really super awesome building. And as an architect, this is actually unbelievable when you can stand in front of something and say, oh my God, wow, like this thing is going to be here when I'm no longer here, right? That's kind of an interesting thought. Right? So that what you could be proud of. Another thing that you could be proud of is I was able to help create an environment when other people, other residents, other architects, other developers were able to thrive and create something that is truly unique and truly Princeton. What I find frustrating right now is the development that we do get is the Avalon on Witherspoon. We needed rental homes, but it's the same exact one, the same exact building. When I go visit my friends in Atlanta, Georgia, they got the same one. My parents used to live in Fremont, California. They had the exact same one. So that placelessness is really devastating to me. So if I could be 3 years and 6 months when I'm, let's say, done with my first term, I could say, look, we were able to create an environment that's something truly organic, something that was truly of its place, something that was truly Princeton, was able to grow here. And I'm hoping it's small, and some of it is going to be really good, and some of it is going to be really ugly. But that would be unique, and people would look at the good ones and say, like, oh, look, those are the really good ones. They really worked out. Let's copy that. And the ugly ones are going to be like, well, that's naturally occurring affordable housing. There's a kind of ugly, nobody wants to live in them. Right? So yes, there are going to be problematic ones, but I would love to create an environment where we allow for experimentation, allow for something that's truly of our place to happen. And then if we could figure out this change in the way we think about our mobility. To me, when you were talking about biking or the train, or is it going to be a tram, what I think it is, we need to think about it. I think about it as mobility. It's both physical mobility. How do we allow a person to get from here to there? And that person may be, a 14-year-old who's not able to drive. And because they're mobile, they could go visit a friend. They could do all sorts of things. They could be because they're disabled and they're not able to drive, but now because they have mobility, they're able to get to a job at the shopping center, right? So mobility helps not only physical mobility, but upward mobility. Because again, going back to my immigrant background, I am such a believer in the land of opportunity, right? And I strongly believe that we have such an amazing chance here by letting people use land in creative ways to create opportunity. And without mobility, it's not going to work.
Okay. That's interesting. So we did have a question somebody asked. What was the question?
Yeah, it was from a little bit earlier, but they
We missed
said,
it.
Do you think Princeton will have to control traffic with more one-way streets?
Do you think more one-way streets are in the Princeton future to help control traffic?
I think that's a fascinating thing to try, right? I actually live on a one-way street, right? And I think so I don't see why not, right? I am no traffic expert, but one thing that we do know is that normally accidents happen when people turn left. If one were to set up the most trips, everybody would turn right, right? Let's say there was a circle around the schools. If left turns were eliminated, if that helped with safety, unbelievable, right?
I
So
did not know that.
I am not sure. So one interesting kind of setup, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to achieve this on town council, but what the mode of operation that I see right now is we have a lot of residents who come with ideas, right? So somebody says, "Oh, let's try one-way streets. Let's try bike lanes over here. Let's try this." And the response from the municipality or the municipal staff, from what I see, is no, 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 this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. It's like first reaction is no.
The human reaction, but yes.
I am not sure that's the correct reaction. So, what I would love to see is shift the conversation to we, the people who are using our town, walking around, say, look, this is what I'm experiencing. When I'm going from here to there, this is what I'm seeing. These are the problems that I need you to solve. Could you, the traffic engineer, the staff engineer, I'm not exactly sure who the right person would be. Could you please come next time and bring me 3 options of how one could solve this problem? Not one option, or not tell me, no, it's impossible, but there's got to be multiple options how to solve this problem. And then we stand there and say, okay, well, what are the pros and cons of this option, that option, and this option? And we can decide, well, okay, we like option number 2, right? Because right now we're in the mode of the citizens are proposing things and the municipality is denying them. I'm more in the proactive mode, as if we set our goals and say, like, look, these are the problems we would like to address. And again, maybe this is my optimism, maybe I'm really naive, and maybe in 2 years people are going to think I'm insane, but I think that it would be amazing to have proposals from our engineers to say, oh, okay, I understand what your issue is. Here are 3 ways to do it. Which one do you want to try? I guess this is what we learn in design school, that there's more than one way to solve a problem. It's not all or nothing, right? You could say, well, we could try this, or we could try that.
Okay. All right. So that is kind of all the time we had for tonight, Marina. Thank you as always. I think what you're doing is amazing on multiple levels. We'll say suspending your practice to become a member of the town council of Princeton for $10,000 a year, to work a crazy number of hours per week when you get there in support of the growth of the town. I mean, towns grow or don't, right? And if you're not growing, you're dying. So the growth of the town, and just taking a hand, because on behalf of all the armchair generals, the people that do not run for town council and just sort of complain in the background, I have nothing but respect and give all you guys credit for everything that you do in support of all the different towns in the area. So, whether you think it's on the right track or the wrong track, these conversations, like, they're shaping housing in real time, and they're shaping the future of Princeton in real time. And people like Marina are on the council, and thank you for coming back on the show. And where can people find you on social media, Marina? Like, what's your?
So I will.
Do you have a new handle or?
Well, at the moment, I have 2 websites. Okay. One is my campaign website, which is Marina for American Dream. And because, can you tell this I am a dreamer, and
You're a
right.
practical dreamer, though.
I'm a very practical dreamer, and I do really hope there is an email, yes, at marinaforamericandream.com that you could send. And to your point of armchair critics, please don't be an armchair critic. I think it's absolutely critical for everybody to send suggestions, send ideas, send, like even if you're traveling over the summer and you see something somewhere in another town, absolutely, let's gather that information and let's learn from everybody we can, and
What
let's try
people
it
don't
out.
know about you is that you will actually listen to it, research it, and talk about it. That's what people don't realize about you.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
so.
genuinely dying to find out. My whole purpose of my podcast is to talk to all these unbelievable experts around the country, around the world, who are doing this work, and have these conversations recorded similar to what you're doing. Because then later on, when somebody says like, well, tell me about the condo problem, I could say like, well, we have recorded this amazing episode and you can re-listen to it, or here's the tax episode, you can re-listen to it and get educated, and we could make use of this information and make real life changes. Well, why not?
There you go. So for everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. Marina, thank you for coming back on. We will definitely stay in touch as you go through the next phase of the election. Love to have you back on as we get closer to the date. And so again, just stay engaged. Don't be an armchair general like me. Go to the town council. I do watch it online. And again, my name is Josh Wilton, and this is the Wilton Report, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Josh.